Fit for Life Radio, episode number 66. We're going to dive into all things
This is going to be good.
menstrual cycle, because Will and I are experts on the topic at hand.
I've been doing my research.
We have been dating women. Married.
Is that enough, though?
married to a woman. So, taking all that into account, we actually decided to not be silly and get a true expert. So, we have Coach Kristen here.
Hello.
She is
Somebody with real life experience.
Someone who's passionate about the topic, and she has, most of y'all that go to Coastal know her, but if not, she's a coach at Coastal Strength and Fitness, and now it's been 4 years,
so.
like 4.5 years probably.
Jesus.
Yeah, 4.5 years. And
You've been here a long time.
yeah, so we're going to dive in on, it's not, I think it is a common thing on people's mind. It's just one that a lot of people
It's kind of an awkward
ask
question, especially to ask your male coaches.
or bring up. So yeah, we're going to talk about it a little in relation to your training and nutrition and mindset and all that. So, Kristen is also a mother, so she's been through all the womanly cycles.
I guess the things that make me a woman, scientifically.
And trained through it all.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times, as we get into, really up front, we'll just kind of say every woman is different, So there's going to, we're going to talk about some general stuff, but as with nutrition and exercise, it is a basic thing, like move your body, eat food, right? We all have to do those two things, but there is nuances based on people's, lifestyle, individualities, things like that. So ultimately, the answer is always going to be really in tracking and being aware of certain things, the more detailed you want to get. And then on the front end, your big rocks, so to speak, always remember, even when we talk about some detailed things, for the most part, like if your sleep is crappy, your sleep routine is crappy, it's going to be hard for you to pinpoint you don't want to pinpoint a change on like, oh, this is because of my cycle, when you sleep 3 hours and your diet is, 90% Funyuns. So
And coffee.
Funyuns and coffee, right? If you caught our last episode on caffeine, you'll know what the pros and cons.
If you haven't, take a step back.
So again, get that stuff in check first. If you're having like major variances in your workouts and your effort and your energy, those things are going to matter a lot more.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're playing whack-a-mole with issues if you don't take care of the big stuff, and you're trying to chase down all these different things when you still haven't dealt with the main thing.
So, Kristen, you want to talk about your experience with training and around that time, and if you've had any times in the past where you feel you have to change things or move things, or mentally you're not there, or you beat yourself up because your energy's worse, or just kind of fluctuations.
Well, yeah. I have noticed through just tracking my own cycle that there's times where I am not mentally able to work out, or maybe even eat the foods that I want to eat, and other times where I feel great. And I figured that out by just kind of like experience it and then jotting it down, and able to kind of predict how I might feel during certain parts of my cycle, and how it might affect my training. So I think what's important to know, and maybe not everybody knows, is like maybe kind of different things that you go through in your cycle. It does last usually the whole month. And if you don't understand how a cycle should work, then maybe this would be some good information for you. So usually your cycle begins on like day 1 and you're bleeding, and that usually lasts 3 to 5 days. And during that time of your cycle, you probably don't feel that great anyways. Like having to do extra things in order to go out to feel okay, and just not feeling that great anyways. And then after this, you'll enter into a follicular phase, and that is when your body is starting the process over. It stimulates some follicles to send eggs to the ovaries. And in this phase, it's kind of nice. Your estrogen is pretty high during this phase, and you're feeling pretty good, satisfied with all your meals. You don't have to eat a lot because usually when estrogen is higher, your appetite is lower. And then also during this phase, lasts about 2 weeks, right before you ovulate, your testosterone picks up right before ovulation, which if you've ever noticed, maybe you're feeling a little more flirty during that time of your cycle. There's your answer. Around day 14 of your cycle, you'll ovulate, and there are some symptoms with that, maybe some cramping, some bloating. I've noticed that too. And this is when your estrogen begins to dip a little bit, and progesterone starts to pick up. And after you ovulate, then that's when things get kind of sticky again. At least for me, I've noticed when that last part of the phase. So after ovulation, there's another 2 weeks. You'll experience, maybe, at least I've experienced, more hunger, harder to be satisfied. I feel like I can eat, and there's like an empty pit in my stomach. And then right before you start bleeding again, like luteal, you could experience some PMS symptoms, which, don't want to be around people, husband, friends, kids, and other experiences like maybe not able to sleep very well, headaches. They all can just depend on you. So that's kind of how your hormones change during the cycle. And if you heard me, I said during that second phase, follicular, estrogen's higher. Okay. So you probably, like I said, easier to satisfy and feel better. And then during that last part of the phase, right before you start bleeding again, estrogen's lower. So if you've ever noticed that before you menstruate again, maybe you're hungrier, that could be the reason why. But like you mentioned earlier, if you're not sleeping well, that also affects your hunger. If I don't sleep well, I tend to be hungrier. And that could happen anytime during my cycle. And trying to get the best quality foods in will also help keep those hormones kind of balanced. Having a highly processed diet could affect those and also just make you feel like crap and hungrier too.
So would you say, so we can definitely put a check besides, look, it's okay and you should train during your entire menstrual cycle, right?
Yeah.
With the mindset that you should have all the time anyways, which is somewhat auto-regulating your effort, Mm-hmm. Just like if me, who doesn't have a menstrual cycle, but I have a bad night of sleep and have no energy and I'm cranky one day, I'm going to go into that workout not telling myself you have to PR, right? My expectation is changed. Would you say it's similar? You want to treat the different stages and phases of your menstrual cycle, really just giving yourself some grace and kind of auto-regulating your effort based on how you feel, and knowing it might not just be just your menstrual cycle. It could be, again, like, did you also sleep bad? Did you have a horrible day at work? Is it pandemic, coronavirus? Yeah. Like, is that kind of approach?
I think like if you're able to kind of have those basics down, like getting enough rest, being nice to yourself, showing yourself some grace, can help get through some of these times where you might not feel great. So adjusting your training program based on maybe an article you read, like, oh, during this time of your phase, you might be stronger. Like, really, it should be up to, like, you decide. Tracking your symptoms, knowing how you might feel, you could predict how you could change. Mm-hmm. But showing up for the workouts that you have planned, and after a warm-up set, seeing how you feel, like, that's how I would approach workouts when you're not feeling great. Because if your workout says, you have to PR today is, like, your 1 rep max, and you didn't sleep well, or you're
like garbage,
or maybe you just don't feel good, cycle or not, like, you would probably feel, maybe you would like do some negative self-talk, like, you're supposed to do this, like, why can't you? Yeah. And I feel like a lot of women carry that, like, to talk a little bit about like the changes in our hormones, like, your guys' don't fluctuate like that. At least you have estrogen, but it doesn't affect your hormones.
Roller coaster around.
It does us. And, I really feel for women when they're like, I did so great for 2 weeks and then I fell off. And it's like, well, maybe like it was your fault, but maybe like you didn't have really a choice. If your hormones are fluctuating because you are a woman that is menstruating and can reproduce, you might experience these things, and then it's not always your fault. But you can practice the basic things like eating, getting enough sleep, eating well, eating slow, to eat just enough.
Setting yourself up to do the best you can, at least with the situation. So.
And I think even if we back it up one step, you have to understand that the human body, the woman's body the main goal is to protect this cycle because it produces human life, right? Which is the most important thing.
That's number one goal.
So
for all of us.
We got a lot of pressure, women.
In saying that, that's why the female's body is different in a male's in that it's a lot more sensitive to stress. And we'll get into the dieting side of things. So a lot of times when people don't listen and they don't auto-regulate and they're like, I'm going to train myself, at an elite level no matter what and super high intensity, and I'm also going to try to lose 20 pounds and diet and cut into drastically low calories. A lot of women end up experiencing like maybe missing their period or lots of changes and things like that, and that's because, again, the female body is a lot more aware to stress. So on the nutrition side of things, what would you say so same thing, like you're going through your cycle, this, you're aware, what should you look out for diet-wise, like especially tie it to a lot of people's common goal of they want to lose weight, right? So does your period affect your ability to lose fat?
No, it doesn't affect your ability to lose fat, like menstruating or just being a woman. It is different, like you said, than men. So if one way you wanted to go about it is, like, if you did track some of the symptoms, you would know, well, usually this time I'm feeling a little bit more hungry. So you can plan for it by maybe upping some of the calories. Now, it doesn't mean you have to eat. Like, I know some women experience cravings throughout their cycle or different times. It doesn't mean you have to act on, like, well, I'm just craving like Cheetos and like tons of chocolate. Like, that's fine. Like with everything, like you should
Cheetos and chocolate.
eat
just like if you're
slow.
If you emotionally eat, right?
Right. I mean,
like you can be aware and then not emotionally eat and replace it with something else.
Yes. I think that the best quality food that you can get in will help support that. And then if it is like something I like to ask myself if I'm like deciding, I know I have a goal, and the thing that I'm like can't get off my mind, it goes against like maybe gonna help me reach my goal closer, like sooner or whatever. Like, is it worth the stress? If I can't stop thinking about like eating a whole bag of chips and then like white knuckling through like this craving, and then at the next opportunity that I'm able to get something that might have been what I'm craving, then I might just be like a mad person. So, is it more stressful to eat a little bit of it and enjoy it? Or do I feel like I have the energy to push through? And that changes week to week for me. So I do give into my cravings and I just try to eat them slower. But there are certain times where I can like push through, like I have the strength. So I always try and ask myself those questions instead of just like, I have to do this. Just kind of like you said, like eat less and work out more. You should never turn any of these things into a punishment, because then that's where, a lot stress. And when you're stressed out, your hormones are all out of whack, and then it causes the same issues that you would have if maybe you were doing everything right, but then just certain times of the month you're just kind of more tired and can't have as much like control or discipline, if you want to use those words.
And I think, a lot of it comes back down to all the other stressful things of our lives, and like the impact. And then when you do go through all the hormonal changes of a period, the menstrual cycle, naturally it's going to like, yes, that's going to be a stress, right? So then you pile it on with like work stress and life stress and
Not
all those
sleeping and
things are going to
training
combine,
hard.
yeah, to make dieting harder. And then dieting in and of itself is a stress. Exercise is a stress, right? So just understanding like the full circle picture ultimately is going to give you the best chance of succeeding with your training and your eating, because hopefully then you're aware and you can make, the control of things that you can control, which would be getting to bed on time, having more sleep, being nicer to yourself, right? Like no need for you to like stress yourself out more
Right.
and hate yourself. So that would be, I think, like one of the best takeaways for most women and men.
I mean, I feel like it comes down to like those basic things and like even monitoring like your stress. I mean, I feel like I've said it to people before and they're like, well, I'm not that stressed out. But yeah, you don't think about working out is stressful. Like thinking about food all the time can be very stressful, like especially if you're kind of confused or like not seeing the results.
Yeah,
So
overwhelmed about all of it.
yeah, so if you're able to like help yourself in the ways of like getting the best sleep, and if you are like checking off those boxes and you feel good about them, and then you're still maybe not getting results, there could be an imbalance somewhere. Maybe it's time to reach out to a coach and ask for some accountability in a place that you know is lacking. But I mean, we hear exercise and nutrition being stressed all the time as the main factors of like weight loss, but stress management, rest and recovery isn't talked about a lot, but it's also really important.
I think that's equally as important, or even maybe we'll say more important than the other two, because without like proper sleep and managing your stress, like the other two might be, too much.
Yeah.
Your nutrition, like you may never get a hold of it because your sleep's terrible, you're hungry all the time. You can't get a hold of that, and then your training's just going to be an extra stress. It beats you up. So, it's kind of a big keystone habit for people.
Yeah. I mean, your body will compensate however it needs to
Oh,
keep
yeah.
you alive.
For
And
sure. Yeah.
if it's under stress all the time and you're not giving it the nutrition it needs, I mean, that could be where the fat's hanging on to,
Yeah.
And in my experience, and so 15 years of coaching, probably 80% of my clients have been female. The two instances that I've seen the most, where clients like bring it up and they're worried about it, are in relation to their cycle. One is the highly competitive women who are like, I gotta, every workout needs to be the best workout ever. So, and we kind of address that, like, you have to give yourself, and you should be doing this anyways.
Yeah, regardless of really male or female.
Yeah,
like,
don't ignore cues and signals that your body is giving you, right?
Right.
So, and if you do this long enough, you're not gonna have this linear progression of workouts
No
to
way.
greatness, in like a beautiful straight line. And then the other is the weight fluctuations, right? So clients, they get really stressed when they see their scale weight, move, bounce around up and down. And at least for me, the answer's always been, and that we've found is, well, that's the benefit of being aware and tracking and learning, right? So if you were to track your weight every day for 3 months, you're gonna start to notice the trend of what your weight does. And then all of a sudden you'll notice, oh, yeah, I do go up 2 to 5 pounds every time at this certain point of my cycle. Then you can be comfortable with that and realize, things come back down. You don't have to freak out. But what happens is you see the scale go up, especially when you're dieting, you start weighing in. Then you're like, screw this. Why does this matter? Then now let me start eating,
Or let me look for the next hit diet.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm gonna try keto.
Yeah, what's
like
going to
my
solve
friend-
this problem all of a sudden?
Yeah.
all because of a normal scale fluctuation that had really nothing to do with
And it's
body
a healthy
fat.
scale fluctuation. Like, it's supposed to happen, really.
And that's the thing is, like, I think it's happening to everybody. But then no one wants, like, but they all think it's happening to them also at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I can't get this, like, nutrition down because I do great and then I don't do well, but so-and-so's doing better. Well, you don't actually know. So it's always hard to compare yourself
Yeah,
to
that
other
person
people.
may have their fluctuations.
Or maybe
and
they get a lot of sleep and you don't, or maybe they have kids or you have kids and they don't. And like, there could be so many, I mean, genetics. I mean, there's so many other outside influences that it's so hard to like find the diet that, or whatever, like looking at somebody else's thing. Um,
Well, and like you said, I mean, there's tons of hormonal stuff going on. Like, boom, cortisol, right? Cortisol, your cortisol goes up at a certain point. Well, cortisol is a stress hormone. Well, a lot of times when you start stressing more, you start excreting more sodium. So now all of a sudden you're losing.
Electrolytes.
With salt goes water, right? So, but then all of a sudden you're going to get very thirsty because then your body, wants you to have some sodium. Or you start snacking on high sodium foods, so you're intaking sodium, which then wants more water to come in. Then you start drinking a bunch of water, ingesting a bunch of sodium to replace what you lost. But you're stress eating, you eat more than normal. Now all of a sudden, you're going to put on like 3 pounds, 4 pounds of bloat, right? But then all of a sudden, your hormones, your cortisol comes back down, things stabilize, and yeah, you start to notice like those trends and realize it had nothing to do with body fat. It had nothing to do with your dieting efforts. If you would have just stayed the course, things will work themselves out. So what we normally do is, and I've done, is basically tell clients to, just expect, that rise, but then eventually compare your baseline to a time that's not that time, right? And you'll start to notice, okay, at this point of the month, I'm down 2 pounds from the same point last month, right? And track that and understand there's going to be those fluctuations. And again, don't beat yourself up over it. Don't think you're like failing. Don't hate yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll look different to everybody, and it'll look different at different ages and different, like even month to month, like your symptoms could change. I mean, I feel like I have 2 different cycles. One time my menstrual cycle is like just so much back pain, and that's all. And then the next month, sorry guys, it's like I feel like I'm gonna bleed out, that I'm gonna need a blood transplant. Like it's so crazy. But like now that I've known that, and that was the very first, like a few years ago, like I want to start tracking this. Like how, like this happened before? Is this normal for me? And that's what kind of got me started into looking into it more, because it is really interesting. And then it makes me feel better. It's not like, oh, well, my estrogen's low, so it's okay if I eat this cake now because I just can't help it. It's just like, I'm going to be hungrier, so I'm going to make sure that I have good food around, because I don't like to feel hungry, so I'm going to eat so I feel good. But I want to make sure that the food that I'm eating is going to like help me.
Yeah,
and
you're not eating a bunch of processed crap.
Right, and make me eat more and feel like worse.
Yeah. And again, understand you may feel different, right? Like I know I have one client who hates feeling full, and she almost like would rather feel more and likes less food density, right? Doesn't want to feel that full stuffed feeling. So like know what you enjoy, but really the only way you're gonna like notice the correlations is from tracking and which takes time.
It does. I mean, you can get, if you're interested in tracking your cycle and you don't already do it, there's a lot of apps. I got a journal book. I just like pen and paper more. And it's been really neat because I can fill in like symptoms with like kind of like those old tests where you circle in. And then different shadings mean different like intensities of it. But it's been really neat seeing like, wow, right around here, I'm always like this. Or it even can track your caution days where it's like, I was really mad for 3 days in a row. I'm sorry, Ben, for like freaking out. And, I feel kind of like a cop out. You're like, it's not my fault. That's when I use it. I can't help it. It's that time of the month where I'm just really mad at you, and I can't help what I'm saying.
Free reign for 3 days to just say whatever you want.
But I think that if you can like kind of track those things, I think like it does, like it helps me feel better to understand it. And now I was thinking of what I wanted to say. Like you probably hear it a lot. Like, just tell me what to do, coach. I'd rather you tell me. And I think I used to like hearing that, because I'm like, good, I want to tell you what to do because I think what I'm doing is the best and I want everybody to do it. And when I found out that doesn't work, telling people,
I mean, I think we're all like that.
Do it like this. Why are you doing like that?
I used to, like, what I do, I've realized, like, most people aren't going to do it.
Yeah.
But then when I'm like, well, this works better for me because I've tracked this way. So just encouraging, like, tracking, like, your cycle, or even tracking the foods. Like, when you are eating certain foods, like, notice how you feel, which it seems like a lot of work, but it's a lot of work to change. And you have to decide that you want to change. And then you have to find the things that you can do to keep doing
Yeah.
the same thing all the time, or at least in that direction.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, like, not even isolated to this, but like you have to be aware of yourself as a person. Like you got to spend time with yourself. You have to think about, like, what do I do on a daily basis? How do I feel? And that comes down to, you know, your cycle, nutrition, training, stress, everything. But you can't just push all of those things to the side and not think about them and expect there to be a change, right? You can't just say, tell me what to do. Well, that might work for a couple of days until, you know, you realize that doesn't work for you because you're a different person than the person recommending it. And if you don't become aware of just, you know, your preferences, the way you deal with stress, things like that, then, you know, you're not going to make any meaningful progress, you know, in terms of changing.
Yeah. And then that's like a good point. If you said, like, if you tell the client what to do and then after a few days they're kind of like, it's not working, like, it's not you. It's like, you should tell, like, don't feel bad about telling your coach, like, I don't think this is working. And then you guys can discuss why, because you might find that maybe it is working, but you're uncomfortable with the situation.
Yeah.
Because, like, any way will work. It's just, do you want to do it? And you don't have to want to do it that way. There could be 80 other ways that you want to do it, but you have to find it for yourself.
Yeah, there's different methods, right?
Like, I noticed that I do better when I eat a lot of fat, more fat than, like, carbs. I feel better. I feel happier.
And fats are more, they're going to be more satiating hormonally. Some of the stuff they trigger causes satiation, right? Whereas carbs are going to be more satiating via volume, like stomach volume in your belly, right? But so it's two different ways to get the same thing. You're trying to get satiated, right? The great thing is whole food carbs, whole food fats, both can make you satiated, right? But it's learning what's your preference, right? I just had someone yesterday, what do you think of the keto diet, right? Because that's the fad. And it's like, my answer's the same as always. It's like, if you find it enjoyable and sustainable and it helps you achieve the body composition you want, it's great. Now, if you saw a YouTube video on it, or you have a coach that tells you this is the only way. If you ever have a coach tell you, like, this is the only way, like, you have to do keto, it's the only way,
run.
then go another direction, right?
Just to remember that says that they have the answer.
But ultimately, different things work, you know? And the only way to try that, and that's the perfect example. What if I was your coach and I prefer more carbs, and I told you you have to eat low fat, high carb. You did, and you didn't enjoy it, and inside you're like, I'm a failure. This isn't working.
And you're maybe more likely to overeat.
Right?
Eat a lot
It
of
worked,
carbs.
but then, like, I'm not happy.
Yeah, you're not happy.
And I'm like, so then I'm like, okay, the only way I have to lose weight now is to eat more carbs and less fat.
And not enjoy any minute of my day.
And then you default
pushing
back
it
to
off, like, okay, I'll go back to what I used to do, which was wasn't really sure. I didn't know how to do
Whereas
it. Or
in reality, it's like, this isn't working. Let me try something else. So the trying is really the process, you know. And then you land on something and realize, and that's what people have to understand. Then if you have someone who eats a higher fat diet, someone who eats a higher carb diet, which obviously, and here's the catch, both of them work in the inverse. Typically, if you eat higher fat, you're going to have lower carbs, right, to keep your calories in check. Same thing. If you have higher carb, it's going to inherently be a lower fat diet. The problem is when you eat
like
high
popcorn with
everything,
butter.
when you eat high carb, high fat, that's what gets people in trouble. So, but that's because it doesn't. High carb, high fat is high calorie. That's typically not going to meet the principle of. So what we go by, the main principle is sufficient protein and total calories, total food intake, right? So
if you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late. So having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop, mixed in water, once a day, and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
Really, carbs and fats can go up and down.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too, perfect, circling back to your cycle. Some foods you're going to feel better on and notice, right?
Mhm.
Depending on what's going on. So a lot of women will lose we plan on getting into this. So a lot of women will lose their period on very low carb diets, right? Now that's not necessarily because like you can't not have a period. You have to have carbs to have a period. That's not true. Now, for a lot of people who are hyper stressors, low carb diet is going to be more stressful, right?
Yep.
So if you're already a stressor, you may notice that you benefit from higher carbs because carbs release serotonin, which is the happy hormone, and it kind of counters
Keeps
your
your
natural
cortisol in check.
Yeah, how you are. So then you'll notice, oh, when I have carbs, I have better periods and consistent periods. Guess what? Like, hopefully you're tracking, you notice those things. Yeah, you should probably maybe have more carbs.
Yep.
But other people are going to be fine. So it's the stress that can really like do you in, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've always found ironic about the fitness industry, especially the extreme end of it. If you look in the definition, if you look in the dictionary, I need
Look
to
in the definition.
I need to look in a dictionary. The definition of fitness is essentially to be able to reproduce, right? And isn't it ironic of how many women, young athletes, lose their periods, right? Because they do too much, too much training, too hard training, too drastic of diets, right? And normally all at once. What do most people do? I'm gonna start getting fit. Boom, huge calorie deficit. Boom, training 6 days a week. Boom, worrying about if you're doing everything right.
Yep. That's a lot.
Lose your period. Now you can't reproduce, which is literally the definition of fitness. So you've lost your fitness, right? Trying to chase all these quote unquote fitness extremes.
Yep.
Like zero carbs, zero
days off.
Like
Never miss any day.
yeah.
Jesus.
So and here's another big factor of this too, which we've kind of taken into account by saying everyone's different, is your genetics, right?
Mhm.
I have like a big thing with women, especially as you lose weight and get leaner, more so than men, where women store their body fat is genetic, and it affects your reproductive stuff, right? So it's interesting actually we've been watching my 600 pound life, and it's all the dudes kind of look the same. The women, they can be like it's crazy how different their fat storage can be.
Oh,
like
big
some
time.
like some women it's like all in their legs and their butt, or like some it's all in their arms. So one thing I've always noticed is you can have a woman can, and this is genetics, right? This is really like you kind of
Nothing you can do about
lucky,
it.
Lucky would be the word. Some women store all their fat like in their butt, in that area, which is probably ideal.
It's like
so
the healthier place
they
to
can get
store it,
down
really.
to a very lean body fat percentage, have ripped 6-pack, and never lose their period, right? Because they store their fat, the little bit of fat they have left, in the right place to where it just doesn't affect their cycle, right? You can have other women who can actually be less body fat overall and never get to where they have like a shredded 6-pack.
Just because of the distribution.
Because of this distribution, and lose their period.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then obviously there's also other stuff of like, what are other stress things in your life and your diet? But in general, that's another factor, is your distribution of body fat can affect losing your period or not. So, and that's where it's tough. You're scrolling through Instagram now, and then you also don't know who's who takes drugs and stuff,
Right.
right? So, and you see all these CrossFitters and weightlifters and six-pack ab, and you start thinking, well, that's normal. If I work out, I should look like that. When in actuality, you don't know if that person's had a period in 5 years, right?
Right.
Do
Yeah.
you want that? Like, do you plan to have a family?
Well, it's just not healthy. Like, unless there's other, if it's like self-inflicted missed periods by like extreme dieting and exercise, then that is unhealthy. But you could have missed periods for other reasons too that are like health underlying. Like,
Yep.
So yeah, you should never do anything that's going to make you not have something that you should have like naturally. Like,
Yeah.
that's the most
Or
natural
it's a
thing.
sign. If you're not having a period, that's a sign that something's not
Something's
wrong.
amiss.
Yeah.
Which then again, that comes back to what do we say? Be aware and track things, right?
Yeah.
And I guess more importantly, that we should probably harp on more is don't ignore stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a big one.
Then at the same time, if you're an elite athlete and you're trying to get to the Olympics, it's about trade-offs.
Yeah,
right?
that might be worth it
So
for you
I don't want to
for
like bash
8
it either
years.
and say like if you're 100% aware and you're just you're just like if you are a race car driver, right? You know the risks you're taking, and sometimes it's worth it for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So some people that's their thing, right? And they're okay with that trade-off. But in general, if health and fitness is your number one goal, it's a sign that I wouldn't ignore.
Yeah.
And again, like that doesn't mean stop exercising, stop dieting.
I mean, you should always do just enough, eating just enough,
Yep.
and exercising just enough. And how do you know eating just enough? Eating slow and
Yep.
to satisfied, and working out just enough is like
You're also
knowing-
not going to have drastic like weight loss, drastic weight gain.
Yeah. And then working out, like, how do you feel today? Like, did you not sleep well, or are you just feeling achy and you need to take like a deload? That could happen anytime, even if it isn't part of your program. Like if it's on week 3 where you don't feel good.
Yep.
You know.
And we're all, Precision Nutrition, do all their stuff. One thing that's always stuck with me, something they always say is, if you truly listen to your body, like it gives you the answers. It's just now we're so out of tune,
Distracted.
right?
And if you like have a majority diet that is highly processed, those signals are going to be weakened.
They're harder to hear.
Yeah.
Because it'll tell you, like sometimes it tells you you're hungry and you're like, well, I just ate like a bunch of stuff and I don't want to
5 slices of pizza.
Right. And then, but then like, why am I hungry today? And like like when the weekends that I decide to fly off the handlebars, the next day it's always like, I'm hungry. But it's like, well, you ate a lot of food. It depends on if I can handle skipping it, but it's like, well, go back to what works. So eating like the breakfast that you need, because my body still needs to like function today. I don't want it to feel like crap, but like even though it's saying, well, you should go get donuts because that's really way more fun and it'll be easier and you feel like crap right now. It's like try and get through the good food and then
and that's food entertainment, right? Like I know for me, and something we try to get across to our clients is understanding when you're eating for fun. And knowing like, look, these processed foods are designed for enjoyment, really, right? Like you're taking a food and you're combined. Like think about it. You take a chicken breast by itself. There's nutrients, there's vitamins, there's minerals. It's nourishing. It's food. Like you should be grateful, right? Now when we add, now let's add some salsa and some cheese and some spice and all that's food reward, right? At that point, we're just adding calories to make it taste better. And so and then those are still somewhat
decent,
decent choices. Now let's take something then that the base is stripped. So let's take flour, right? So it's typically stripped of most nutrients and then stripped of its normal whole form. It's just flour, right? And now we're going to add butter.
Buttermilk.
We're gonna add sugar, which again is stripped, no nutrients, right? And then we're gonna add some artificial flavoring. We're gonna add some artificial coloring because we also get sensations from visual stuff. So now you end up with all these foods that are artificially flavored to taste amazing, to look amazing, to smell amazing, and our brain is like in hyperdrive. So
it wants that. You should listen to your second brain in your stomach. Are you
Yep.
hungry? I mean, those two, it's hard to get those
It is
two to
hard to-
agree. You're like, my brain's
Yes,
like, you want this.
And then
something's
to
like,
tie it
no.
back to your period, like then you're on your cycle, your hormones are adjusted, your leptin, which is your hormone that controls
Hunger.
can be a little out of whack, and you start eating some of those foods, then your brain goes off,
Yep.
and you're like, I
That's
can't
right.
stop. And then,
Emotions break your habits.
Yeah.
If you track your emotions at all too, like you can tell, like maybe like that would help. In that cycle that I have, or the cycle journal I have, it tracks emotions, and the emotions that break my habits are all of them: happy, sad, like excited. Um, so if you can kind of tie those emotions to when you're eating, then you can decide like, well, this emotion I'm feeling is I'm having fun. Like I want to have fun with food. I'm feeling sad. Do I really want to eat this? Is it just because I feel sad? And the answer can be yes or no. So does it matter? But as long as you're making the decision,
yeah.
then maybe it's harder to beat yourself up the next day because you decided like, yes, this is strictly for fun, or I'm sad, I'm going to do this. But I feel like when I've identified those sorts of things, it was easier to not binge. Because if binging usually is like, I don't know what to do, and I'm having all these emotions, so I'm just gonna eat everything. And then you wake up and there's chips all over your chest and in your
And
bed.
then you're like, I'm gonna do a juice detox for
You're
4
like,
days.
okay,
Yeah.
what's the next
can't
best
go.
diet?
Yeah.
Like,
So now what's happening is you're bouncing around from extremes, which then can cause problems to your cycle
Yep.
and your mood and everything in general. Because now you're, drastically cutting calories for days. You're drastically increasing calories for days.
and then you get stressed out from doing that stuff, and then Friday comes and
Yep.
everybody's like, let's go get margaritas. You're like, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. It's way.
I did great for 4 days drinking all that juice.
Juice. I saw something someone sent me, and
I always forget juice is a thing, to be honest with you.
it was like if you went to the vet and someone's like, your dog's overweight, he needs to lose weight. Like you wouldn't go buy a bunch of cucumber juice or something and put your dog on a juice detox. You would just have him like take more walks
And eat less food.
And you'd feed him less food.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't stop feeding him either. You would just feed him a little less. And it's crazy.
Somehow weird.
What as people, somehow like we try all these
And
crazy
you know what? I
things.
think that some of those juice things work for people and they're happy doing it. And that's what you don't know. People on Instagram, maybe they're happy eating this way, like really restricted, and it gets them results and everything they want. And then you're trying it. You're not having the same outcome because it's not what you like. So not to make fun of other people's like diets and fads that they want to do. It's just like,
And it could be part of their learning process.
yeah,
so.
yeah.
That's
So I
it.
think like experimenting shouldn't be like, you should try stuff for longer than a couple days to see how it works, and then you'll.
That's something I have to remind myself.
Yeah.
Is how much stuff we've tried, like across I don't know how many years, that we've all done this, but like.
But I will
we've
say there.
tried many things, but given it honestly a fair shot, like if I ever tried anything, it was 6-9 months really of actually like buying in and doing it, and then realizing, you know what, like I don't feel like I want to sustain this. And learning as you go.
Yeah, and you do have to have some kind of barometer of like, the more extreme something seems,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
what are you trying to get out of this? Any quick, like, if you truly think you're gonna do like a juice fast and have your dream body in 3 days, too good to be true, right?
Yeah.
So
your expectations
now, if
were not
you
right.
enjoy drinking juice and you're satisfied and it helps you eat less of other stuff because now it's part of your diet, and then you're losing weight, great. But so you gotta like look through a filter of reality with anything, right? Same thing with like money. It's like fitness parallels money and finances
very well.
very similar, and you see like get rich quick schemes all the time, that are too good to be true versus long term.
Just investing your money.
Like save your money, spend less than you make, but those are slow and take a while.
And
no
they're
one wants
not
to do
very
that.
attractive. They're not super exciting.
Yeah.
It's not exciting to watch essentially paint dry.
Yeah, and it's not exciting to journal your period or your menstrual cycle for 6 months, right? But guess what?
Super beneficial.
Going to give you the most results, the best results. So, I think that's hopefully the ultimate takeaway is that, awareness, just in giving yourself some time and
some grace with
stepping back
with
and
anything.
like listening.
And always practicing those basic habits, like we preach here, like eating slow, eating to satisfied, getting enough rest,
Avoiding stress.
That's what I always go back to when I'm always like feeling like lost or like I went too far in one direction. Like, okay, let me bring it back to what I know works. So eating better quality food and
Yeah.
trying to rest more is always my go-tos. And then I start looking into why isn't this working?
Yeah. And those are all things that um, help us hear our body better, you know? Like less to interrupt your internal cues,
Yeah,
you know?
like
So
Kristen said, like the signal's easier to hear when all your ducks are in a row. When you sleep better, when you're eating more whole foods and things like that. Like it's just a little more clear and not so muddy.
and one thing we haven't touched on, which is when you're healthier, you have more you can have more manageable periods and
Yeah,
a
yeah.
menstrual
Usually,
cycle, right?
if you
Like,
are like, you do practice like rest and recovery and eating better quality foods, and like those symptoms could lessen because you're taking care of your
yeah,
body
you're
better.
getting the
Yeah,
nutrition
if you're doing the
working
stuff that
better.
it needs, then like
Yeah.
the outcome will be better. Then.
Yeah.
It's hard though. Like you said, you have to be vulnerable to want to track and listen to yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like it took me a long time to get there, and I don't know if it's like a women thing, and because it does seem like men can shut off. Like I'm going to do this, and I'm doing it. And I see it all the time in my house with Ben. I'm going to do this now, and I'm like, all right, that sounds good. And I'm like,
you forget how.
and it took us
you
a long
forget
time
Ben's a
to,
different
like,
species of human being than the rest of us.
It took me time to figure out, like, just because you want to indulge right now, I don't have to, and I get caught up in like, well, you're doing it, I want to do it, or I should do it, or like now I should be restrictive because you're being restrictive, and we found a good balance, and like, and really it was just me learning how to listen to like what I want instead of like what someone else is doing and me thinking that
sounds
I should be
exciting or
doing it
fun.
too. Yeah. It's hard to do it.
Well, and a perfect example of that is too our societal influences, right? Super Bowls today. Like a week ago, Alexis was like, "I want this pizza and this and this and this," thinking like, "Oh, what are we gonna do for the Super Bowl?" And what's your first? Oh, it's a holiday that you're basically supposed to eat
all day.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, me, I actually like enjoy watching football, so I'm like, I don't even like to go to Super Bowl parties because I want to watch the game.
Yeah, and not hang out with a bunch of people and get distracted.
But then as the week progressed, and she's realized, well, I really just want this. Actually, I didn't even really want any of that stuff. I was just like, oh, I need to create a day.
It is. So
it sounds
cute.
exciting.
You get caught up in like, oh, it's this thing.
And ultimately we ended up, with like a take and bake pizza that's, we'll eat, and when we're full, we'll be done with it. But then we don't need, a bunch of chips and dip and all
ice
this
cream
because if it's in there, it's gonna get eaten.
Yeah. Oh, and man, then I would eat the whole game.
Yeah.
And then you're reinforcing and creating. That's your habit, right? Oh well, on these things I have to capitalize on this time because it's Super Bowl, right? And that's what you do. When in reality, if that would have been another normal Sunday, would you like? Did you want any of these things? Were you going to have any of these things? Like, are they exponentially making your life that much better? And maybe they are, right? Which cool. But
like
then,
you said, if that's your entertainment, like your entertainment is to watch football and to eat like junk food, then let it be that. But it doesn't have to be also Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Throw it out when you're done eating it.
Yeah, that's what I do. And really, if there was anything that I like treat food as entertainment, is when I watch football, I'll like get some snacks and like eat them, and then when it's over, and it's probably because my team always loses, so it's actually not fun to watch football, but it's fun to eat food. So that's kind of probably
that's why you eat. See, I said emotion breaks your habit. So when you're crying into your chips,
and it's funny, we laugh about this, but legit, like this is a thing in my head, like. This is entertainment for me. I like to eat snacks while I watch football on Sundays, right? But I 100% am aware of that.
Yeah, you made a decision to do it.
And then I make other decisions during my week based around that. Like, I'm not going to snack during the week on a Tuesday because I know I'm going to be doing that watching football.
And I feel like that's the key is you made the decision. And I feel like when you put yourself in a diet or where you have to restrict everything, then it feels like you're no longer making decisions. Yeah. So you can decide to eat a certain amount of calories, but if you're really hungry, like true hunger, and you're like, I'm hungry for pizza, but you already have food prepared, are you hungry for that food?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Then you're not hungry.
Then you're not really that hungry.
Yep.
Okay, what is it? I want to be entertained. do I want to be entertained with food or do I want to be entertained in another way? And then like kind of going through those things, which again, like it sounds, I hate saying it because it's like, I don't want to tell someone to do all that stuff, but that's what I do. I'm like, this is what I want to do right now. Okay, I'll do it. No, I don't want to because I know later this week we're going to be doing this. And that is already going to be where someone's pulling me out of like my normal routine. So I can push it off.
And my thing always is, it sounds crazy, but you have to. We have to, because that's the environment we live in now. This stuff wasn't a problem 300 years ago.
know.
Yeah, because all this stuff wasn't available.
Yeah, unlimited food. Like.
And we haven't adapted to the unlimited supply of food that's so like.
Could you even imagine like
to get
even really what this podcast is about, right? To be able to worry about the intricacies of our training and our dieting based off of the menstrual cycle, right? Like you wouldn't have had that luxury, years ago, because it's just like you would have just been hoping to find food. You would have activity would have, like, you may have had to move your shelter. You may have had to work in on crops. Like you had to do these physical things. So a lot of it like is because of our environment now, because there's unlimited food, because we have more time to do things like sports and push ourselves physically beyond what our body would normally do. That's why we have to then take time to step back and like kind of listen.
Yeah, listen more than we probably ever have.
You're right. You drive down the street and you see McDonald's,
and then
your windows roll down, and you can smell
McDonald's,
it, and you're like, and you might not have been hungry until you saw it, and that's just your brain going, "Oh, look, food! I can smell it." And like you said,
and you just ate an hour ago.
And you just ate, and like you're Like I feel like those hunger hormones happen like throughout the day. Like they just are always like chemically happening. So they could be higher, even though you've already eaten. They can still, just because you saw something, it triggered. Oh, you're hungry because you saw this or you smelled this. Where
think
you
about
might not be yet.
Yeah, like our great grandparents would have just. You wake up, someone's cooking eggs. That's the only time you're gonna smell food till you get back home.
Yeah.
And someone's cooking dinner, right? But now, you could drive and you smell the McDonald's, and then you get on your phone and you scroll on Instagram and you see chocolate cake on top of ice cream cookie wrapped.
And you're
surrounded
on your
by,
way to the grocery store, and you're like, I'm adding this to my list.
Exactly. And then you flip on the TV and you see, commercials for stuff, or, well, I don't know. I haven't seen a commercial in years, but you flip on Netflix. And so, we're bombarded with all these things.
And then everybody's like, it's my fault. I can't be disciplined. It's like, well, it's not your fault. Like, it's there, and it wants you to have it.
And you have to just meet that.
And you have to make decisions.
Yeah.
Don't let it be like, oh, well, whatever. It's too late because it's Friday and I already messed up. So
just don't let the TV and the smell make the decision for you, too. Like, you still are making the decision, but you want to set yourself up to be able to make the decision as best as you can. You know, like not having it in your house, or setting a rule that, like, I don't stop, somewhere unplanned to get food. Those things can help, but you have to kind of have those solutions because they're there.
And the crazy thing is, we do it all the time. It's just, it's not a priority, right? So, because look, like marriage, right? What are you saying? I'm going to enter into this relationship, and it's just going to, I'm only having the same meal the rest of my life, right? So, like.
Is that what they talk about in 90 Day Fiancé a lot?
One meal?
This is a big decision. You're going to make it in 90 days.
So, create rules around your nutritional intake, just like you do.
Boundaries, we
have boundaries. It's like all around, right?
We have boundaries for other people.
Look at driving. You ever that's what gives me hope.
Oh my God.
Driving gives me, it gives me,
for the most part,
unhope. But when you really think, you ever just drive and you're like, man, look at all these people following all these rules.
Yeah.
Like, and there's so much driving happening right now.
And it's all going pretty good.
And it goes well, right? People are capable if you give them boundaries and rules and directions.
Do you ever have that thought, you're driving down the road and you're like, I could drive into traffic right now and just completely ruin all this?
We watched a show last night on Netflix, the Sinner. It's the third.
Center or Sinner?
Sinner, Sinner.
Okay, like you church.
And essentially, it was the third season. The first one was like Jessica Biel, and she's the producer, but it's pretty good. But essentially, the premise of the third season is this dude And like it's like, is he crazy? Is he not? And that's pretty much his thing. And he's like, do you ever just sometimes you're standing there on the street and a big bus drives by and you're like, I could just step right in front of that. You know what I'm saying? And
That's a thing.
you're
Though.
like, oh, I do that, you know? Or you ever been at like, I don't know, you're at like somewhere where there's a high building and there's a railing and it's perfectly safe, but you lean and you're like, I mean, I could accidentally talk.
Yeah, dude.
And he's like, you think about that,
They're
right? And
called,
you're kind of like watching and you're like, oh yeah, I have done that. Like that is it is like a.
So it's called an intrusive thought.
Yeah, an intrusive
like you
thought,
don't consciously
so-
do it, but I think it's your brain thinking of the situation.
That
and
could
it's like,
happen, right?
You could go over the edge right now, or like if you just went a little bit to the left, like you would crash into 12 cars and like
Ruin
really
their
mess
day.
things up. Yeah, like or die.
But then
And-
that's what the show walks is like. You're like, this dude's a psycho, man. He needs to be put away.
And then
But then you're like,
everybody kind of has those thoughts,
you know, or is he just, thinking about it a lot more than I would? But
No, I
Yeah.
get that a lot actually on the interstate. I'm like, damn, we're all doing really good. Like I'm proud of everybody around me for handling this.
So just do that with your nutrition.
Yes, drive on the interstate and don't get into a car crash.
Yeah,
but like with food.
make your boundaries. Make decisions for yourself. Don't when you leave it up to your coach, like tell him what to do, then you have a reason to get mad at somebody when it's
and
not
someone else
working.
is making decisions for you.
Yeah.
You know what my boundary is that I've learned? Don't tell your wife that she's making an issue out of something just because she's on her period.
Don't ever.
But now I'm confused because earlier in the podcast, Kristen said how she realized that there's things that she does because she's on her period. So, and then in my head, I was like, I was right.
But you can't ever say that. Like you can't.
Because one time,
no matter if you're right or not, you still can't say it. Not gonna help.
I'm even gonna tell this because you know what? This is what good radio hosts do. I'm
Let's
like, man,
do it.
they share stuff that
They do.
They're gonna get, but that makes it interesting. So one time, and we rarely ever get into arguments and fights, but we normally go work out on Saturdays, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go together. So I was during the week, she's a teacher. We don't do as much together, so it's like let's go to the gym. But it never seemed like we just drive and then we kind of do our own separate thing at the gym. And one morning, I was like, I went like 15 minutes earlier because I think I was meeting Diego. We were gonna work out together, and she was mad that like
you didn't drive together.
There's been some Saturdays where she's like, I'm gonna go to Barnes and Noble, so let's drive separate, because she has some other things
And
to
so
do.
you're like, oh,
so
it's
I'm like,
fine, not a big
whatever.
deal.
But anyway, she was really mad. She's like, this is a special, precious moment, basically. And I was like, you're just on your period.
You said that out loud?
Probably.
Oh
yeah.
no.
That's why you're upset about. I was trying to be like super woke,
rational,
super like I'll let this slide.
Well, she could have just been mad at you because
no, I didn't say I let this slide. No. I didn't even think that.
Oh no.
But I was more just like, I didn't know it meant so much. Why could this mean so much? I was like, I think it's just because maybe she's on her period, which I can understand. So yeah, that's why she's so mad about this right now. But then she was like, no, that's not it. And I was like, dang, maybe it's not. But
so like Alexis and I are different women.
This is true. But hey, you ready for this? This is where I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, this is gonna be good.
Yesterday,
we got a guest room if you need to stay.
So I've been waiting, and I know she probably has too. I was like, so now it's like an internal battle of, is she gonna stand by this for the rest of her life? So I was just waiting for the one time where I knew she would want to do something else and not go on the Saturday, and I could be like, deep down inside, I could be like. And yesterday she's like, we're getting ready to go, and she's like, you go ahead and go. She had stuff to do, or she said we take too long, or just something, right? So then in my head I was like,
I was right.
In my head I was like, I know it didn't mean that much to you.
It could have meant a lot to her at that time. Just because it meant a lot one week doesn't mean it has to mean the same amount the next week.
The funny thing is, I'm actually more the sappy one like that.
Yeah.
Like then I actually got sad because and especially when we were in California, we got in a good routine. And we would go, and then we would go to the grocery store, and I talked about this before. So I'll get like all our normal grocery stuff, like the stuff you actually need, like your whole foods that sustain us, and that's a majority of what we eat in one trip. And then we'll normally go separate. So like to get like treats and different stuff, or we're gonna make like a more more involved recipe. So on Saturdays we would get in a routine. We could go pick out what we're gonna have, like our chocolate bars or treats or snacks, and and it's kind of fun to do, right? Yeah. So we got in that routine, and then when we got out of it, I kind of missed it, right? And I'd be sappy about it, like I missed doing this little thing. So so yeah, I give her a hard time, but
You're the softie.
But so yeah, then yesterday actually it wasn't so much the drive. I was like, oh, but I gotta go to the grocery store afterwards by myself now and pick out my
It's not the
treats.
same.
And it made me sad.
Yeah, I have tracked those caution days, is what they're calling them in my journal.
That's what I'm gonna tell her to do. Kristen said
You should track
you
your
know, next
caution
time I'll be
days.
like, just write this down in your journal.
And I
Your
feel like
period
there's
book.
been recent times
Throw a book at her.
where I feel
Here's
like
a period book.
where I've been like, I
No.
know, like, I feel like I can't help the anger that's happening inside of me, and I know there's no, like, nothing happened to me.
There's nothing,
by
no rational, real
yeah,
reason.
besides just like and unfortunately, Ben's always at the
What-
The receiving
easy,
end.
easy target, unfortunately. Yeah, it's hard to yell. Well, sometimes I yell at my daughter too, and I'm like, I can't help this, Eden. It's because we don't get enough sleep.
the real
we need to
question.
sleep better.
Do you yell at clients?
Not into their faces.
One week she just comes in like military fatigues
Just-
and
What depends?
Breaks bad on everybody.
I feel
A
like
whistle.
I'm not good at hiding actually how I feel. So I'm sure everybody in here knows when I'm mad or not mad.
everyone starts keeping their own.
A journal?
Yeah.
Everybody knows when Kristen's menstruating.
And that's how we can give away some of our gift cards.
You gotta guess where
Yes.
she's at.
Oh my gosh.
Oh God.
Oh. Oh, that's a good one. I've run out of ideas. That might be it. Mm. All right, so, man, now we've been all over the place.
I know.
But
We
we'll
get
leave it
carried
at.
away.
Well, that's a good stopping point.
I'm glad we had Kristen to help though, because
Yeah.
Well,
We would have just dug a deep hole. I mean, I still
Yeah.
managed to dig a deep hole.
yeah, our hole would have been way deeper trying to do this. So I think we saved ourselves
I
a little
guys
bit.
wish you would have recorded that one, and then we could listen to it, and then we can record another one to see
Yeah.
which one was better. Maybe you guys
Yeah.
would have done a good job.
I know
Like you said,
myself.
you've married women and you've dated women, so
Yeah.
Does that make you an expert, Jill? I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think so. Our observation skills clearly aren't, 100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's episode 66.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Gary, Will, and Kristen signing off.
Later.
Till next time.
Bye.
As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.